Okay, hello there. My name is Scott Lopez, and welcome to my presentation of my alpha submission for this week. I am going to try to go through the game as quickly as possible to show all the things that I've added and the improvements that I've made, and so there may be some jump cuts in here as I edit the video for the sake of time. Because I know I've already gone through the level several times and I just want to make sure I get to all the key points. So first you can see I created a start screen here with some ambient music that plays on a loop, and I added a settings menu which will allow you to turn the master volume, music volume, sound effects volume up and down. So yeah, let's go ahead and turn the master volume down a little bit. I think you should be able to hear that the volume is going up and down. And I routed the music and the sound effects to different buses so that you can turn the volume down on those independently. And then I moved the toggle full screen in here. And you also have the controls screen, which will show you the controls for controller as well as keyboard and mouse. And one of the things that I really tried to work on this week was getting the controller buttons all mapped out, because I had been testing it on keyboard and mouse, so I needed to make sure that all the controller keys were working, and ran into a lot of bugs with that, particularly with the menu system, because you have to be able to use the controller to select everything without using the mouse, and so I had to make sure that it was grabbing focus on everything. So that is all set up, and so let's just jump into the gameplay. Oh, also, I added a credit screen here so that you can see all of the graphics and audio assets that I've used in this game. As you can see, there's quite a bit. I've pulled from a lot of different asset packs that I found online for free and tried to kind of combine them together to make my own thing. So there's that list, and let's go ahead and play it. And also, as you can see, I added that loading screen there, which fades in and out. I still need to add a tutorial section here in this first part, but I hope to get to that for the final submission. I believe I will be able to. So now loading into the first fortified layer. As you can see here, I added some dialogue using Dialogic for Godot, which is an excellent tool. If any of you are using Godot, I recommend looking into it. So there's just some narrative here at the beginning of the level. Dr. Madison gives the players some key information that they'll need to succeed, like the fact that they need to find the exosuit upgrades and the weapon imbuement upgrade, and he'll pop back in throughout the level as you find things, and kind of give you some encouragement and tell you how to use them and whatnot. So let's skip through this. And then the next thing I added was these gates, which are locked by this terminal, and so I added this mini game, which is basically a pattern recognition game, and as of now it only has one bit that's different from the rest. It's all zeros and then 1 1, and so you have to figure out what pattern is missing. In the future I want to add more complex patterns so that gets a little bit tougher. So in this one, that's the one that's missing, so you click submit and the gate unlocks for you. Okay, and here we've arrived at another one which blocks the electricity imbuement, and I need to improve the labeling on the terminals so that when you're on controller you have to press X or square to access it. But as you can see, the patterns are randomized, so they switch around every time. And then when you grab this, you get another dialogue pop-up from Dr. Madison, and he tells you what you've just found. and then the system will come in too and let you know how to use whatever item you've just found. So that was really something I wanted to work on this week, because I got some feedback last week about the text being a little bit illegible. So I think that a big improvement on that area. Okay, and here's another terminal. So I made it so that the teleporters or the elevators are locked until you open them with one of these terminals. So once you enter the right pattern, now, well, I should have demonstrated before I opened it, but now you can go through, and now these are both unlocked for the rest of the level. Okay, and we've reached another terminal that blocks the double jump upgrade. And this one is... Actually, you can see it's random every time, so it makes it more of a challenge. And you get some more dialogue that pops up. And again, Dr. Madison is just explaining what the player just found, and then you get a system message that tells you what the upgrade you just found does. So now we have the double jump. Okay, so now you can see this electrical shock projectile coming out, and this is another new thing that I added, was these larger turrets that kind of play as gatekeepers for certain or as obstacles for certain things in the game, and so the player has to avoid those. And when you grab the armor upgrades, you also get a message from Dr. Madison. Now for the armor, this will just be a one-time thing where for the first time you ever grab a piece of armor, you'll get a little message from Dr. Madison, or perhaps not. We'll see how the flow of the game goes. But I was thinking that it would just be a system message for the future upgrades, just to let you know what you got. Okay, so I also added these laser beams that are on a timer where they turn off and on. So then it's just another obstacle the player has to maneuver around. And they do deal a significant amount of damage, so they punish the player pretty heavily if they hit them. And so I've also added these floor spikes here that are also on a timer. So the player, just another obstacle for the player, and again another terminal for the player to unlock to get up to this upper level. Which has the chess piece. Okay, so now approaching the boss room here. I'm just going to skip these, and that brings up another thing I wanted to mention, was that I want to add a stamina and a slide timer so that the player can't just constantly spam the slide, and we'll have to manage the stamina bar, or actually I'm going to call it an energy bar, because it's really going to power his exosuit. So it's going to be an energy bar that the player has. And I still want to haven't worked out exactly what actions I want to deplete it. It could either be just exosuit actions like the second jump of the double jump and the slide, and perhaps the cannon shot, although the cannon shot is already on a timer, as you can see on the bottom left there. So I just have to play around with that and balance it out and make sure that it is fair, and that it also provides more of a challenge for the players so they can't just slide past everything. And so for this last stretch to the boss room, I also added this obstacle course for the player. So you can either slide past those or jump up on this ledge here. And then you get to these beams here, and they're very punishing if you hit them. So, oh, another thing too is you can slide underneath those electrical shock projectiles. So perhaps I need to let the player know that somehow, or let them fight on their own, because it's also possible to jump over that first one and get down in time before the second one hits you. I've tested that and it does work. It's a little challenging, but it does work. I would like to show you how punishing this is. I'm thinking of spacing these out so it's not so punishing, because what I will show you is when you when you hit one of them, let me wait for them to come back, you bounce backwards. So if you get hit by one in the middle there, you bounce back and forth between two of them. I think you just hit the first one and then you hit the second one, and then I don't think you hit a third time. So it does take off a lot of damage though. So I am thinking of spacing those out and making it so that if you do hit one, you only get hit by one. You're not going to bounce back and forth. And then the final stretch of the obstacle course here. And once you get to the boss room, there is a health potion refill, which will refill all of your health potions. And as you can see, we have 0 major, 2 greater, we still have 3 minor. So once you hit this, it refills all of them back up to 3. And so now you're ready to face the boss, which I really hope to have all programmed for the final submission. I have some ideas on how I want the behavior to work out. I just, it's going to take some time. So hopefully I have the time to do that. And I believe I will. And then, so once you enter here, you get one more dialogue pop-up from Dr. Madison. He kind of prepares you for the boss room that you're about to enter. And another thing too is these red beams here, which I had been using for the elevators and for this boss room door, are too similar to the beams that punish you when you hit them. So I'm gonna have to think of a way to differentiate them to make sure that the player knows that they can walk into these without taking damage. So that's something. Maybe I'll just change the color or use a different asset or something like that. So once you get here and go through the dialogue, the system tells you that you've reached the end of the level and that the boss fight will be coming in a future update. So that about does it for the gameplay updates that I've made. Another thing that I did forget to show, which I meant to, was the pause menu. So when you pause the game actually does pause. So you're not going to take any damage or anything like that. You can go back to the main menu. You can quit out of the game completely. And you can also open the settings menu from right in here, toggle full screen, turn on the volumes up and down, and view the controls, which I think is really important for the player to be able to do, to remember all the controls throughout the game. And so that's about it. And I will come back with, I want to show some of the bugs and improvements that I've made as well. Okay, so after one of the lectures a few weeks ago, I believe, I can't remember which week it was, Professor mentioned that we should be keeping a bug list. So I made a spreadsheet and started a bug list. I couldn't remember all of the bugs that I had encountered and fixed, but I put in as many as I could. And since the last submission, one of the big ones, which I had to kind of fix by just changing the logic of the game, which I didn't want to have to do, was that when the player was being hit by an enemy and a projectile at the same time, the game would just crash. So I had to change it so that the damage that the player took was just the same for both. But that's not really the intent of the game. There should be the projectile should do a little bit less damage, and the enemy should do more. So I fixed that by creating a function that passed the damage rating from the projectiles and the enemies to the player script in a way that didn't cause it to crash. And then creating the user interface, I ran into many bugs, a lot of which had to do with just the controller and the buttons not being able to be clicked either with the mouse or the controller. So I went through a lot of trial and error with that, and eventually was able to work it all out. And let's see what else. The dialogue, I had a pretty major issue with a Stack Overflow on disconnect, but that was a really basic fix. I just had the code written wrong. There's a lot of issues towards the beginning with the enemy movement and how they read certain obstacles and the environment. So I had to fix a bunch of those as well. And other than that, I just, as I programmed everything, I would test it out. I would program something, I'd test it out and then fix it, and then move on to the next thing. And then every time I encountered some issue, I would just go back in and figure out what was going on. So the bug list is not exhaustive, but I tried to keep track of some of the major ones here. And so everything right now, though, seems to be working pretty well. I haven't encountered any major bugs other than when I was putting in the user interface, the pause menu, and the settings and all of that. So yeah, so that about does it for my alpha submission, and thank you for watching.